If you ask most customers in the Indian market today about what fuel their next car will be running, there's a lot of confusion around is going to be the most obvious answer. Of course, the government doesn't want you to use diesel anymore. They say it's dirtier, but the fact is it's one of the cheapest fuels to run, and modern diesels are getting cleaner and cleaner. But policy-wise, they decided that's not the way to go, and that's a discussion for another day. Petrol prices have been through the roof, especially over the past couple of years. So petrol cars are proving to be extremely expensive to run. CNG is very hard to find. There's still not enough infrastructure. And electrics, on the other hand, still remain unattainable for most of us who have one car for every use. So what is the answer? Well, Toyota thinks it's hybrids. Well, if you look at it, hybrids do make a lot of sense for India, and they're bringing their first mass market hybrid product to India. It's the much anticipated Urban Cruiser Hyryder. You can see it behind me, and we're driving it today in beautiful Bangalore to see if hybrids offer good drivability, do they offer excellent efficiency, is it cheap to run, and do they offer more for the customer, and can they be used as a single car for the whole family? Well, let's get into the Hyryder and find out. If you're somebody who's been looking forward to the Hyryder, to learning more about it, you would obviously know that this is not just only a Toyota product. It's in fact a joint program that's been developed by both Toyota and Maruti Suzuki. So when you look at the overall design, there will be similarities between the Hyryder and the upcoming Grand Vitara. That aside, when it comes to the specific design details of the Hyryder, I quite like the front end. I like these sleek lamps, this two-level structure. There's this 4 carbon fiber plastic, and while it does have a little bit of chrome and this big air dam, I think the front is quite striking. What also works in its favor, especially in our test car, is that this bright blue shade is offset really well with the grey black detailing and the little bit of chrome that the front has. It has 17-inch wheels, of course squared off wheel arches that give it slightly butch look, and also the matte plastic helps, that cladding works for it. Big hybrid badging to tell you that you're running a car that's more fuel efficient and less polluting. So that's obviously something that's been a trademark of all Toyota hybrid products, and that's been carried over to the Hyryder. The doors are quite nice, and on the side in this version you have the two-tone treatment. The roof is in black, the rest is body colored, and the two-tone paint finish will be an option that will be available on certain trims and as part of certain colors. The rear, like the front, is also quite nice. That's another design detail that I like. Yes, there's a big chrome badge here, but that's okay. The LED tail lights, especially with their darkened effect, look really nice. This the indicator, the fog lamp and the reflective lamp has been positioned nicely in the bumper, and the bumper with a slightly flared design actually gives the Hyryder an imposing stance on the road. In fact, I have to say, when I first saw it on the stage at the reveal, I wasn't really impressed with the design of the Hyryder. On the road though, the car has presence. The 17-inch wheels, the slightly wide muscular look gives it a unique identity, and it is certain to catch your eye, which can only be a good thing for Toyota. And once again, like the badge on the front fender, you also get a big hybrid badge at the back, and the V of course signifies that the car that we are driving is the top end model of the Hyryder range. The interiors of the Hyryder, well, they're quite interesting to look at. I really like this two-tone look, the brown and the black on the seats, on the dash, with this greyish detailing actually works quite well, and it feels like a decently plush place to be. What also helps is this 9-inch touchscreen, which is very good to look at, has excellent resolution, works well even in direct sunlight, and also offers you wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto and other connectivity functions. You also get a great display both in the digital instrument cluster in front of you and on the main screen, which shows you how the hybrid system works when it's in EV mode, when the battery is being charged, when both the battery and the engine are being used for maximum performance. So that's a great graphic to look at to understand how the system exactly works. You also get an HUD system, and this is slightly enhanced. It gives you the status of the battery. It also gives you, like, if you change the climate control setting, it tells you what climate control setting you're on, and thankfully the climate control settings are physical buttons which make them really nice to use. This top spec model also comes with driving modes. It gives you an eco mode, a normal mode, a power mode, which we'll talk about when we drive the Hyryder. You also get a dedicated EV mode button. So let's say if you're parking or moving around at slow speeds, you can use only the battery and not start the engine. Like right now, I have the air conditioning running and the car is running on EV mode and the engine just started. So what happens here is that you save fuel, but that's something we'll come to later. You also get ventilated seats, you get a panoramic sunroof, and overall the interior feels decently well built. The steering is nice and not too much use of chrome makes it quite a nice place to be. The seats are quite comfortable, but since it's based on an elongated Brezza platform, it has a larger wheelbase, larger length. The length is just over 4.3 meters, the wheelbase is 2600 mm. The obvious question is how much room is there in the back seat, because as you can see in the front, I have enough shoulder and headroom, that's not a problem. But how is it in the back? Well, let's get there and find out. There's always been speculation about how the rear seat of the Hyryder would be. Why? Well, because in the strong hybrid variant that we are driving, there's also a large battery that's used for EV mode and other functions, and so that is situated right here towards the back of the car. So that might be a compromise on space, we'll just find out. But interestingly, one point, it doesn't have a flat floor. There's a definite big hump in the middle of the floor at the rear, and I think that's going to be a hindrance for the third passenger. You do get 2 USB ports, you get rear AC vents, the panoramic roof. Now this is slightly controversial. It's not a traditional panoramic. A panoramic generally extends till about here or even further in some cars. So it's a much larger roof than a normal sunroof. Is it a true panoramic? I don't know, but honestly, given how much heat is transmitted into our cars from panoramic roofs, I think this is a decent size. So for this, I'm not complaining. If you're an enthusiast who really loves his or her panoramic roof though, you might find this slightly short. Now coming to the actual room, there's enough knee room for me. There's enough space under the front seat for me to squeeze my feet in. So that's not a problem. The shoulder room is also fine, but the headroom is a definite compromise. I think a 6-footer here, I'm 5'9", is going to have his or her head touching the roof and might not be too comfortable. That's certainly something that you'll have to consider if you frequent the back seat and if you're taller than the average Indian person. One interesting point, I was thinking of pointing it out when we were looking at the exterior, but the windows of the Hyryder feature quite heavy tinting from the factory itself. That's really good because in our hot summers, this can really cut out heat effectively, and I think that's part of the reason why the air conditioning system of the Hyryder works so well. It doesn't transmit so much heat inside the car and really cools the cabin down very, very quickly. Also, there's a slight compromise in the Hyryder, again on account of the hybrid system and the battery in the boot. Let's see what that is. One of the packaging challenges that EV manufacturers and hybrid manufacturers face is that if you have a decent sized battery, it's physically quite large. So obviously that's an issue that has been there with the Hyryder, because as you can see, the boot normally would be quite spacious, but it has this compartment built into it. Why is it? Because behind that is where the battery and parts of the hybrid system are stored. So you do have storage space here, but it obviously cuts down majorly into the actual boot space. For regular trips, for everyday use, this might not be an issue, but if you're looking to use the Hyryder strong hybrid as a long distance car for a lot of luggage, that's something you'll have to consider for yourself. Of course, some of you might wonder where the spare tire of the Hyryder is and whether it has one. Yes, it does. It's mounted under the boot and it can be accessed from below when you need it. Now we've seen what the Urban Cruiser Hyryder offers in terms of design, how it looks, in terms of equipment, in terms of space, a few of the compromises, a few of what is really good with the car. Now coming back to the most important question, the power plants. The Hyryder will be offered in 2 engine options and there will be multiple gearbox options. So let me just detail out the different engine gearbox variant options for you. The starting model will be a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder Suzuki mild hybrid system. This is a engine and system that's manufactured by Maruti Suzuki. It's also a similar system is also seen on the Brezza and will be on the Grand Vitara. Now in the Hyryder, it will be offered with a 6-speed automatic that will come in 3 trim variants. Also, it will have a 5-speed manual option which will come again in 4 variants, and only the top spec variant of the 5-speed manual will have all-wheel drive functionality with its various terrain modes. What we are driving is the Toyota powered strong hybrid. This is their Toyota's in-house developed hybrid system. It's powered by a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder petrol engine, Atkinson cycle of course, which is paired with a battery in the rear of the car. 0.76 kilowatt hour is the capacity of the battery, and the battery and the hybrid system is what Toyota claims leads to massive gains in fuel efficiency. In fact, the claimed figures for this engine are just under 28 kilometers per liter, making it one of the most fuel efficient cars in India. How is it to drive? Well, I have to say at start the engine, when you start the car, it's usually in EV mode, so it has a dedicated EV mode as I told you earlier, and the engine silent because it's not turned on and you are running by the battery. The EV mode also enables air conditioning operation. This has benefits in efficiency. I'll come to that. First up, when you start the car, EV mode, you silently, you can take it out of the parking bay or wherever you are and onto the road. After a while, the engineers, or rather the company, doesn't give you an exact range because they say according to many things about how much the battery charges, what speed you're driving on, how much throttle you're using, the range of the EV mode varies, so there's no fixed figure. But yeah, we've seen that in getting out of parking and stuff, or when you're cruising, like right now I'm cruising at 80 kilometers an hour with my foot off the throttle. I'm running in EV mode right now, so the engine switched off and the car's just running off the battery, which contributes to efficiency. So you get off in the EV mode, the engine starts somewhere. The operation, the seamlessness between when it goes into EV mode, when it goes into hybrid mode, when it's using only the engine, when it's using both the engine and the battery, usually when you're commanding maximum performance, is very well done. So that's a system that works seamlessly. The engine comes on when it needs to, the engine goes off when it's not needed. As far as power delivery is concerned, in urban areas, in part throttle conditions, the engine works really well. The torque is plenty. The engine produces about 114 bhp. Now the exact torque figure between the motor and the engine is not known because that's a figure that Toyota doesn't tell you. But I think given that the 1.5 liter 4-cylinder mild hybrid has about just under 140 Nm, this should be around the 175, 180 Nm mark. That's just a gut feel that I'm saying based on the acceleration. When you get onto the highway, reaching 3-digit speeds in this is particularly easy. The steering is quite well set up. It's slightly on the lighter side, but it's communicative, it's direct, works very well, and the ride quality is absolutely fantastic. We have seen some very good roads today, some bad roads, some undulations, some under construction roads, and the ride quality, despite being on 17-inch tires, the car's soaked up everything. The suspension has been tuned very, very well. Of course, some people would ask whether the extra battery and the hybrid system, whether that has a weight disadvantage in the Hyryder. Yes, it does. The higher variants of the mild hybrid weigh around 1255 kilos. The top end strong hybrid weighs around just under 1300 kilos. So there's a weight difference of about 40 kilos, which is about what a young teenager. So it's not much, and I don't think it has much effect on the efficiency of the car. Coming back to a couple of points of the driving appeal that I don't like about the Hyryder, at higher throttle inputs, as you'll hear now, there's a little bit of rubber band effect that is typical of a CVT. A CVT is of course the automatic transmission that comes in the strong hybrid Hyryder, and that rubber band effect annoys me a little bit. It also increases the amount of engine noise that comes into the cabin, but it's only the engine noise that is there that really distracts you, because the engine and the system are super smooth and there is no vibration or any harshness of any kind. It's just that when you're sitting at about say 80 kilometers an hour, you want to overtake a truck or a fast moving car, You just have to wait for that power to arrive because of that rubber band effect, and you can get a move on. So maintaining 3-digit speeds on the highway will not be an issue. Of course, you can mitigate this slightly by using the power mode, which increases the throttle response. Nothing else really changes in the driving appeal, but the throttle responds faster to your inputs. It gets you more power, and that makes it slightly more engaging to drive. Now coming back to the efficiency aspect, we've driven mostly on highways, some country roads, some time spent standing for the photo shoot and the video guys to do their job, and I've seen an indicated fuel efficiency with my driving of 22 kilometers per liter. Now 22 kilometers per liter, even at a petrol price of just under 100 rupees in Delhi, that's cheap. That's under 5 rupees a kilometer. That's fantastic running cost. So that is definitely an advantage that is there with the Urban Cruiser Hyryder strong hybrid. It gives you very strong fuel efficiency. We're trying to go into some city traffic because Toyota engineers, especially the engineer who's with us, part of the product development team for the Hyryder, says that when you're stuck in urban traffic, which is what most of us are, the system is even more efficient because when you're standing still, the engine's not functioning. When you're moving at slow speeds, the engine's again not functioning, and that we'll see figures close to 25, 26, 27 kilometers per liter. Even if you can do 24, I think that's simply phenomenal, because if you have a running cost of around 4 rupees a kilometer, that's really saving you a lot of money. Also, you're polluting less because you're using less fuel. So there's a direct connection to how much you're polluting by using less fuel, less pollution. So that makes a huge difference. Of course, there are also a few compromises that the Hyryder has. One, I don't like the resolution of the rear view camera. It's quite poor, and I think that can definitely be improved. The panoramic sunroof enthusiasts, like I said earlier, might think the roof is slightly small, but I think it's pretty good, and the smaller it is, the less heated your interiors are going to get. 3, there is a compromise when it comes to boot space. We've shown you that, and there is a compromise when it comes to headroom in the rear seat. Lastly, I think that this is something I've experienced with most hybrids, especially with the city EHEV, and with this, the strong hybrids are very efficient. They're very clinical to drive. They do the job, but they're not that engaging. You don't feel like throwing them around as much. You can throw the Hyryder around. It behaves very well. We got some lovely curvy roads. You can do high speeds. It's very predictable, but it's not that fun. So that engagement factor is lacking. I think that's something that, as hybrids evolve over the years, will change. But overall, the efficiency really does give you a trump card with the Hyryder strong hybrid. It offers you running costs that's super low, and that's an advantage that all of us can use in today's environment where fuel prices are through the roof. So in a nutshell, what do I think of the Hyryder with the strong hybrid power plant? Well, you see, it has its advantages. The Hyryder looks good, has imposing presence on the road. The interiors are quite pleasing. It offers a good driving experience. It might not be exciting, but it does the job. Especially if you're stuck in urban traffic most of the time, the EV mode helps. The efficiency numbers are fantastic, and you will live with it, especially with the ride comfort, which is simply terrific. But it comes with a few compromises. Rear seat room is limited. 5 full-size adults will be a tight squeeze, and the boot space also is at a premium. So those are factors you have to consider. Ultimately though, everything boils down to the pricing of the Hyryder. Hybrids have tremendous potential in India. They can bring down your running costs significantly if given the fact that the purchase price of the car is at a reasonable level. So we are waiting for Toyota to announce the prices of the Hyryder, but it's a car you should definitely look at, especially if running cost is one of your primary criteria in selecting a new car.